You can follow Joseph Massey Substack for $5 for month one. You can try it out for $5, and you see his beautiful poems always accompanied by a beautiful photograph, and it's the smallest stuff. And you can find beauty. I mean, I've read your poems. I've read your book. You write about, the scene at Family Dollar, like over the parking lot, like images we've all had, but we don't appreciate them in the right way, in the way that you help us to see them.
Yeah, my modus operandi on Twitter is to disrupt the toxicity. I really love the idea of putting a poem without commentary, just putting a screenshot of a poem up on Twitter and imagining somebody scrolling through just the most horrible shit. And then they come and they stumble upon a poem. It must be, if they spend time to read it, it must be very disruptive, but I would hope in a very positive way. And that's what poetry can do. It rejuvenates language that's been so abused and used for manipulation. It's been drained of its life through politics, the language of politics, and the language of war, and the language of commerce. And the poem brings language back to a really human place. And the purpose of a poem is to communicate. And that's something that's lost in the world of screens and yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm. And yet it's not as readily available as we'd like. You don't get poems foisted on you the way you get links to books or new podcasts or new digital shows. And that's another thing I love about following you on Twitter, and also Dispatches from the Basement, which is what you call the Substack emails and links to your work, because it just makes it's right there. It's one click away, as opposed to having to go look for it for somebody who doesn't follow poetry like me. You make it super easy, and the poems are easy to connect with. I mean, you don't have to work that hard. It's just beautiful. I'm sure for you, there's some labor that goes into it, but for the reader, there's no labor. It's just love and connection and a thought or a moment of serenity. It's the opposite of what I say. Like, a lot of these websites now are too cold about our feelings when they post things like about child abuse, or like there's a terrible story going on right now about the killing of this innocent dog in China by their crazy COVID police over there who have zero COVID, and the video's horrific. I mean, they just post this. Like, you're just scrolling on Twitter and there's this, suddenly you're assaulted with the video of animal torture. That's not okay. You're the antidote for that. So I feel like what you're doing is important. I want to give people just a sense. This just came in my inbox on Monday. All right, this is from Joseph Massey's Dispatches from the Basement. He writes, "The poet has two jobs, write and survive." And I got all this about my glasses. I can't read. Okay. Write and survive. Between the two, some kind of life occurs, close to the ground, in poverty. And there are seasons. Even as a snow squall pixelates the alley outside my window in the middle of May, poetry is time chiseled into a shape that makes a sound. Yes, I love that. So this is obviously written before because it's April, but I wanted to ask you about that, the poverty, because you write about, you don't have a lot of dough. You should be charging more than $5 a month, first of all. But second of all, is that also part of it? And are there any rich poets?
Oh yeah, the rich poets are the tenured professors who are ruining poetry, in my opinion, because the MFA poetry world is quite a racket, and I think there are 300 MFA programs in the country, and pumping out how many thousands of wannabe poets every year. Yeah, and so the big money is in being a tenured professor. It's rare to achieve that. But and there are poets with trust funds. I mean, the more that these MFA programs proliferate, the more you see 20-somethings who, have very wealthy parents who never told them that, hey, maybe you're not all that talented. Maybe you should do ceramics and, pick something more practical. But that never happens. So no, there aren't. the poets that I've loved in my life, they've dedicated their lives entirely to poetry, and there is no real financial reward in that. However, since I was canceled and then had to rebuild my life over the course of 2.5 years, something like that, I've been able to make some money through the Substack. And the book that I just put out, I published it myself. I've never published my own book before, and I won't give the number, but I mean, I've made enough in royalties to pay a couple months worth of rent. That's pretty unheard of for any poet.
All right, but we have to, that's not good enough. We have to do better. Rosary Made of Air. Everyone can go to Amazon.com and buy it. It's available on Amazon. And we need it right now. It's like number 70 in a poetry sub. That's not good enough. Let's get it to number 1. Please support Joseph. Rosary Made of Air. I never actually ask my audience to go. I say, I recommend it. You should check it out. I never say, please go buy it. I'm saying, please go buy it. We have to support artists like you who are putting out good works into the ether, who have been silenced by, this group of moralists who decides if you make mistakes in your life, you are never to be forgiven. No matter how many mea culpas, no matter how much you've shown the world that you see the error of your ways, you understand you may have misstepped, but you're human. And you're on the same journey the rest of us are on, evaluating past behaviors, learning from them, if you're at all evolved, which you are, and trying to do better. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.